Hi everyone, I'm super excited to host Parijat Saxena, who is design technologist in AEC field. Parijat, thanks a lot for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
So take us back from your Jaipur college days to design technologies. Like what has been your career journey, right?
Yeah.
Some lessons learned you learned the hard way and things
Okay.
which you like to share.
I think it has been a great journey. So born and brought up in Jaipur. Now Rajasthan is known for its forts and palaces and everything architecture basically. So having grown up in that environment, it has always pushed me towards looking at this, grandeur of architects and architectures and the design, the thinking behind creating certain spaces. That was my point where I decided, okay, my field will be architecture going forward in life. But I also had this whole of a technical background coming from a very, sharp family. So when I get into the architecture field, I would say design was just one part of the whole process, but it was more to do with how you can make things more efficient, more beautiful around you, and how to do it in a very, I don't know, pushing the technology towards certain. And that was my whole goal towards the 5 years of my bachelor's here in Jaipur also. Very privileged to have been studied in such a great college, learned so much from that era. But then when I finished the work, actually during my internship, so I did my bachelor's 2013 to 2018, 5 years. But between that, about 7, 8 months, I went for an internship in Bangalore in Cadence Architects, and that was a turning point for me. So before going to the architecture internship, I was like a little bit dicey of what to do with my life. If I want to like switch to MBA like everybody else, or if I want to get into, certain other fields, what should I do? But having to work in such a firm, it was so dynamic. There were three directors. Everybody has their own outlook to architecture. Everybody has their own outlook to, from say very small interior projects to a big hospital project also, but very little bits. And those bits and pieces already gave me that push to move forward and work on this kind of this industry. Now, having to finish my masters and everything, I got more interested into the parametric size, the biophilic side of architecture, and wanted to learn more into the this field. It's like, what is it? What is it doing? Finished my bachelor's in 18 and then started preparing for my master's. And in this side, I did do my portfolio and send it out. Like, let's explore. And again, very good firm, Siri Architects in Mumbai. I got to be a part of the firm there. Now, there it was a very different side to things. A big project. It was a meditation center for Jain community in Gujarat. It was going to come for the mega structure project. It was a huge project. Now, while working on that project, obviously, as an architect, you learn about design, you learn about drawings, and so on and so forth. But there was a very interesting side to it where there was this whole big auditorium project that was going to happen about for 5,000 people in one go. Now, at this scale, you need the visual and the audio technical part of it, how the technicality will work, how the line of sight will work, how the audio visuals will work, how the speakers will work, how the reverberation will work. Now, for me as an architect, how I was taught is like, okay, this is the work of an audiovisual engineer, and architects have nothing to do with it. But great mentor, Mr. Santosh. Mr. Santosh Thorat, he was my mentor and my lead architect. He was like, Grasshopper, certain, these kind of softwares, the technicality of it. Why don't we produce a script that will give us a pre-design for how in like this audio visual will work, how the reverberation will work, how the line of sight will work. Now, for me, that was like, okay, as an architect, can we do that? That again changed my viewpoint to what a designer can do, what an architect can do. And from there, obviously, I started using technology in a very different way, not just designing forms, designing, certain facade elements, but also designing for a better experience and getting into the engineering side of it. Moving forward, 19, went to Australia, started with my master's in generative design. Very, very fun story. For me, it was always like, who will be the mentors, because from my time also I've realized the mentor is the most important thing of all. Who teaches you, who you treat as your mentor, make or break your structure and your life journey. Now there is Mr. Roland Snooks, architect Roland Snooks. He is one of the pioneers for the generative design. I looked at his work, super interesting. I was like, this is something I've never ever even imagined. That architecture could be like this. Where he was talking about swarm intelligence, he was talking about robotic printing, facade designing. I was like, okay, this is totally a different side of things. I was like, okay, let me just have a look. Let me just write to him, and started preparing. I wrote to him, and then yes, I got into RMIT in 2019. 2 years of masters. One of the great things I think that RMIT gave us, up like different from my bachelor's, was it gave you the option to curate your course. It gave you the option to choose which subjects you want to choose, and with those, how you want your electives to be like. So basically, everybody got out of the university with MArch, but everybody has a different field or different, line of work at that moment. So started working with Roland, and then got into such amazing realm, a very different side to the technology, where you not only just are a designer of a space, you are a designer of an algorithm that will create those buildings, that will create those facades, will help you think in a very different way. I never knew if swarm intelligence can actually help architects in any way. But yeah, for the first month, I was lost. I am not even kidding. Like, there were kids coming with such weird, results, and they were able to explain it, and I was just lost. I was like, what is it happening? I never thought in my whole life as an architect that this could be something that, an architect or a designer can think of. But slowly and steadily, what happened was we got so much of time to explore and experiment and adapt our thinking and our perception of how you can use swarms. So one way was how you can work around the robotic intelligence to create certain structures that has a topology optimization. By that what I mean is we usually create such heavy chunks of blocks for your slabs, for your furnitures, for your walls. But do we actually need similar amount of mass throughout? Maybe not. We just need it at certain points. So how do you actually create the structural knowledge that you have, structural design knowledge, and how you can use the swarms intelligence where they can accumulate at only the points where there is the mass needed and create such amazing, iterations of it. Now, this is very futuristic to what we are used to, but it was very interesting. Cut down in between, COVID happened. Life was very different in Australia, what I thought of and what it was. Obviously, I think for everyone who was here and there. One thing that happened is, so I don't stop. I just keep chasing people. And there was this one person we were kind of started working for as a modeler for certain bathwares and everything. He said, why don't you come with me, and I'm doing certain interior projects. Why don't you help us? Now, I was doing this generative design very, very, very different from what we are used to. And then I was doing certain interior project for this client, very, very high-end client, very straightforward client. My first experience as a designer in Australian market. And luckily it worked out. So for 2 years, I was working for a very futuristic vision, but also very realistic, on-site development of architecture and design. Now, these two things really gave me a different perspective of what I can do when I graduated. Most of the friends around me, because they were so much into tech. They thought this is it and we want to get into tech. And we want to do algorithms, we want to do this, and we want to create certain designs like this. But honestly, when we graduate from architecture schools, the ideas are mostly artistic and not realistic. And which is fine. I mean, I am not against it, honestly, because university should be a place to give you that dream, to give you that imagination, to give you move behind, forward than what your daily life can be. But then where I think most of the people crashes, get stuck to it. They don't want to change the perception to, okay, the real world needs something else. You have the ability to create something, you are the designer, but designing can be also designing the execution of certain project, designing the admin of certain project, designing how the client journey will be throughout the project. So a designer just is not a designer of the building, but also the designer of the whole process. Now, saying this helped me get more and more interviews after interviews. And before I was graduated, I had multiple options in my hand. Now, what should I do? Should I go in a big firm and start exploring, what everybody does? Person just sitting and doing the facade iterations, paneling iterations. Otherwise, so this company called Brand Architects, they were into all the government-led projects. And the project scale was from kindergarten to schools to universities to, veterinary healthcare centers and so on and so forth. And these were not just one project you're doing. It's a government-led, so you have to deploy these projects in multiple cities of the state. Now, that was a very different idea to what I have been doing. Now, this is literally going from a very fancy product company to a very government-led firm. Beginning was tough. I'm not gonna lie. It was tough. It was different from my mind to shift. But it gave me the opportunity that they were working on modular construction for kindergartens. Now, if you can imagine, there are compliances for the state, for the city, then for kindergarten, because it deals with very, very young kids. So the compliances are huge. And then there are compliances for pre-construction. Everything just shifted. All that you have learned throughout your whatever, say 8-9 years of your life just turned around. It's like, okay, I don't know anything about it. So for 1 week, I sat down and listed the whole set of rules that they wanted me to apply. And then I did what I did best, was to use the computers. So created a whole system for prefabrication in Rhino first, and then taking it to Revit. But another lesson of my life was, we might be doing all the work by ourselves, but this is an office. However smart I can be, or other person can be, or say other person outside the offices can be, and you can hire sometime, you can't hire sometime. In the end, it's a company's project. In the end, there will be other 100 people who are great architects, but may not be as great in technology and working with certain scripts or, all these fancy tabs that we create. So the next and most important challenge was to convert everything that I've created into a system that is feasible and easily using friendly for everybody in the office. Again, scratch it off, do it again. You are doing it and you're realizing what is the capability and of BIM. So there it was where I was introduced to what a BIM software can do. What what more can happen there. Now that was a life-changing experience again. My thought process changed again. Having to said that, obviously when I finished the curation of everything, there was the thing called training. Now you have to train also. So just imagine, from being a designer from palaces and everything, now I'm coming to the training part of softwares and systems that I'm creating. Fair. Okay, let's move on. That I wanted was to get into a field where the projects are even bigger in size so that I can understand the bigger scalability. And that's where I entered BKK. When I entered BKK, they were doing this infrastructure project, almost, I think, $200 billion project, huge project, 500 stakeholders, so many different people involved, so many different landscape is there, civil, mechanical, everybody's structure is different, design is different, documentation form is different, and everybody is coming together for this project. And you know what the biggest challenge was? Biggest challenge was interoperability. So I started as an architect, getting into the Rhino and Dynamo and all of that, but ended with actually sitting and creating systems that can help everyone. Creating systems, how you can take something from one software, put into another software, and then forward it off. Because every one of the AEC stakeholder, from civil to landscape, this realm, everybody uses different platforms for their work. And that is one of the biggest challenge I think is there still right now. Now, amazing work there, very good learnings at that point. And then obviously few things changed personally for me, and I was like, okay, I have to move from there. I have to take something that is, I'll take a break. I have to be with my family and everything, but I don't want to stop obviously working. Now, at that moment, I realized, okay, I have learned certain things. What if I present this in front of everyone and actually help people with this? And that's where Novator came in, my current role here. I curate the course. I did basically a little bit of marketing and everything. But a very interesting thing is, in this big market, Novator is one area where they are taking the students and not giving them false hope that you'll just learn a software 20 in like 8 hours, 24 hours, and that's it. The whole team is trying to create an environment, an end-to-end experience where you come in, you say, okay, I have minimal to, zero to minimal idea of certain BIM or computational design. And how, when I leave this, course, when I get graduated, how can I create a very confident personality in me? If somebody asks me any technical side of it, how I can showcase there. And that really stuck with me, because I remember when I was trying to get hang of these, certain software, for me, it was GitHub and Reddit threads and the Rhino, the Rhino threads that you get. Those were the things that I used to sit and used to type my queries to. Now you have a platform that can actually help you throughout.
Yeah.
You have the query system, you have the learning system, you have the creating new project system. You have everything in one place. So that really sparked in me. Is like, okay, let me just take a break from what I'm doing and get here. So yes, that's been the journey till now.
Yeah.
Anything that you want to ask from this, and then we can go forward with that.
That's an incredible ride. What a journey. If I were to put myself into the 18-year-old architecture student right now, how can I fast track my journey to technology in architecture residing in India?
Okay, so honestly, one thing I refrain from saying is fast tracking. There is no fast tracking. I'll be very honest, honestly. One should consider it to be a marathon and not like a quick run. You have to keep working on it. Why I'm saying it? Because the tech is changing so quickly that if you don't have your basics clear in designing, if you don't have the idea of what designer would want, can we just, I'm sorry, I lost my charging, so I have to put in the charging. Can we just put that? And then, so fast tracking the career, I would suggest that it's not something one should aim for, simply because the tech is changing so quickly, so easy, that you start learning one software. By the time you're halfway through that, journey, you are into another software. There is demand for something other than that. I would say your lifestyle has to develop in 50-50. The 50% of it trying to understand what the industry wants, what the architecture is like, what the engineering is like, how the stakeholders interact with each other, what are these compliances, what are the pain points of being in the AEC industry holistically, not just, as an architect, but also as an engineer, also as a construction contractor or anybody. What is the things that they need? But also keep your eyes open for what tech is there. And once you realize the gaps, you'll automatically start understanding what are the softwares that are needed to fill in the gaps. So there is no right or wrong way to do it. I always say, if you learn one software and you think that is gonna be it doesn't work like that in the field. Nobody is going to come and check for your software skill set. They're going to come and check for your problem solving skill set. So usually what happens is, I tell you very, very interesting story. So I at BKK, my first role when I started was as a design technologist. You have to work with certain algorithms. You have to get us with certain ideas for bridge structures. So my work as a designer, as an architect, was under for bridges, mostly the pedestrian bridges and everything. So that was that was given to me in the beginning. As soon as I entered, the first day I was trying to figure out what does this infrastructure project looks like, how it is set up. Now what they did was, they had these tiles of GPS site works for the whole site, because it was a huge site, like a long stretch of site. They couldn't put one site to like whole of the GPS Google satellite image together. So they did certain tile work. So every time you have to get into one patch, you have to go to the code, see what patch has what code, and then import certain tiles into it. Now for me, if I don't know the project, I just can't work in it. So I took it on me. It's like, my first task will be to just have everything together. I want to see how the whole experience look like right now. Now, one thing is, obviously I can drive to that site and look it for myself. But what is changing, how are we going to see? That's where QGIS came in. At that moment, when I joined, I had zero idea of QGIS. But with me, the idea is, I have to get a task done. QGIS is one software that will help me. Let's get into it. Let's solve it. Doesn't matter if I know it holistically. So I would say to anybody, even a 18-year-old who's getting into the tech side, who wants to learn more in the tech side. See, tech is here. I'm not even saying it's gonna be there. It's already here. So you have to work hand in hand. But don't get stuck into the perfection of learning things. Get into the learning of things. Get into the how it will solve certain problems for me, and go from there. When you do one, I tell you, my first ever software, learning wise modeling, I was a very bad model maker, hand model making. I think I have excelled in all of the other subjects, but model making made me cry. Like, I was a very bad student there. And all my architect friends were really good at it. So it obviously made me like little, I'm lacking behind. Maybe I'm not a good architect. I don't think like right now that I've grown up and worked and everything, I feel that was never the point of it. The point of it was that you understand you as a designer, and the second you get a hand on learning how things work. Now, if it can be digital, nobody really cares. It's like, get the work done. In the end, the industry is ruthless and they will ask you to get the work done, be it any technology. Even if it's now AI, so many colleagues of mine, so many friends of mine have been working in the AI field now. It's very interesting. But I would still say AI is not getting the 100% done. There is still the need of this human intervention right now, because obviously buildings, bridges, infrastructure projects, all of it, there is so much at stake. So for anybody right now starting as 18-year-old, I would say, don't you think of anything else. 2 years just spend on learning the field, learning architecture, learning what happens. Third year, get into an internship. Don't wait for the college to ask you to do the internship, because when you go in the internship, you realize what are the goods and bads of the industry, where are the gaps. And as you realize, keep learning. Start learning the softwares from them. Now, I know for big projects, they hire one firm just for designing and one firm for just for documenting. Now, how do you see yourself? So people will put you in that zone. How are you learning Revit? Maybe documentation is the place. If you're learning Rhino, maybe the designing is the phase. If you're learning Tekla, maybe the structure department is your place. But why not just explore everything? Why not just start doing little of everything? So stop using the perfection and start solving. So yeah.
I think so. It's like marathon approach, learning
Yes.
to learn,
Yes.
good problem solving skills, go wider, and then
Yes.
whatever you resonate. Like it's a T-shaped thing. I have your website, and if you were to share one highlight of like
Okay.
there's so many projects and articles, what would that be?
I think script built. The thinking is all of my artistic explorations. These are very, very, how do I say, poetic approaches to designing a system, designing a facade, designing for, BIM collaboration and everything. So this is very editorial. If you go to the script, that would be my actually experimental and research journey. And so if you just, yes. Now, this one is very interesting, where I actually explored things from robotic printing to 4D printing. So if you go for the 4D printing, that was my master's thesis. Now, if you think of 4D printing, what would it be like? So I took the approach of printing something two-dimensional, and with the fourth dimension of time, it changes its shape. Now, while I was working on this, I realized every time it changes shape, it was a very parabolic or a self-standing structure. Now, all these self-standing structures, if sprayed with concrete, they can be very thin structures. So right now, our slabs are basically 150 mm, how we usually take slabs. But with certain ideology of this thing, we can actually reduce the thickness of our slab from 150 mm to 50 mm. So almost 1/3. Now, when you're doing that, you're reducing the usage of concrete, which is again one of the major pollution creating element right now. So for this one, what happened was, it was a 2 months project. I did all the 3D printing physically, and then created a whole physics script where I wanted to check how the interaction happens at stretchability and plasticity, and then actually replicated the real life project to the real project, where everything that's happening real life can actually be done in digitally also, so that people can actually use this technique to design certain building types. So that was the whole idea behind this project. Very interesting results came out, very interesting things happened. But yeah, that was my master's thesis on very material behavior of certain you know types of this stretchability options that we have right now, and how 4D printing can actually help in the future for reducing the amount of concrete. Basically, in the end, it should be solving some problem. For me, concrete was a big problem. And then if you go to the build projects, that's my work in different areas. The first one is the project from the BKK project, the infrastructure project that we have been doing. There are many options for the bridges design, the whole infrastructure was changing. But the whole idea here was it was an interoperability project for me. Then Satsang Hall, I think this is one of the biggest project that I did with City Architects in Mumbai. Again, this was not just a project that was architecturally beautiful, but very technically sound. So yeah, these small projects lead it to bigger things, and now into training. So yeah.
Amazing. Do you want to share like what kind of courses one can expect at Novatar?
Yeah, sure. So we have two products right now. That is, one is BIM and the other one is computational design. Under BIM, we have BIM architecture, BIM MEP, and BIM civil. Now, all of these projects, they are not just teaching you the software, but in the end, also giving you a project to work on. So, when I think it's a sad reality of the industry, but any student who's working is any student who's into the architecture or engineering or MEP or anywhere in the colleges, when they get out of it, the employers ask her, what projects you have worked on? Do you have an understanding of certain tasks? Now, it's not possible for everyone to have worked on every project. So what happens in our course is, obviously you finish a 6 months long course. It's a 6 months long where you start from the basics of BIM, not just Revit. I would say BIM. Then you get into the a little bit advanced version. We are learning plugins and Dynamo and blah blah blah. And then you're learning the collaborative part of BIM, where, as I said, it's not your individual project. In the end, it's the team that you are working with and you're going to work with. So how do you actually manage the whole project with the team? So it teaches you from the industry standard, the ISOs and RIBA and other standards that you want to learn. And from there, how you can work with, if you want to work on a local server, what are the options? If you want on a cloud server, what are the options and why we do it? Not just how to do it, but why we are doing it also. And by the end, the whole thing happens on a project. So you're starting with actually a blank slate, and you build a project together. So everybody do their activities and learnings throughout the course, the 6 months on a project. It's not just the software, but also after that project is done, you're given a whole 1 month to create your own project also. So when I say create your own project, I'm not just giving you a project and saying, okay, you go, you have learned, now you can just build your whole project. It has certain tasks. So we provide them with certain options for projects. And each project comes with about, say, 60 odd tasks. So you finish the task and you have your own project. So now everybody will have a different kind of portfolio outcome and not just one. The whole course also has career sessions. When I say career sessions, there are industry specialists who are coming to the session and giving you the nurturing of the soft skills as well. So how you build that, because obviously it's not just about learning some technical knowledge. In the end, you're working in a social environment, and how you actually develop that soft skills for being an engineer, for being an architect, how to approach an interview. Because I think the world has become like very small and everybody is working everywhere. So it becomes very much necessary that you know the technical skills, but you also know how to be a good person in that field, how to think like a designer, how to think like an engineer. That is also one. So throughout the course, there are every, say, 2 weeks or so, there are career sessions that happen. And in the end, there is a portfolio and evaluation. So before, if you remember, I don't know, like when I was doing my portfolio, I was just alone. I was just showing it to some of my friends. My friends were also like in the same boat. So blind leading the blind was the scenario. Now you have actually mentors who know what the companies are looking for, so they can help you with it. Because obviously the companies does not look for how many projects you have. They look for a very minimalistic approach to if you can deal with certain tasks. So if I am a company who is looking for people to help me with say educational projects, and I have hundreds of portfolios, I will give preference to somebody who has educational portfolio. But also I will give preference to people who I see are generalist and not they know just one thing. Just for everybody, I think one more advice will be, at the starting of your career, be a generalist. It's okay. It's okay to be a generalist, and I think it's better so that you are not just. I mean, there are people definitely who just know what they want to do from day one. But for anybody and everybody, it's okay to explore, say, 4 to 5 years of your life. Keep switching, keep trying new things, so that you get to a point where I was like, okay, some things I like, but there are things I don't like also. So you have both the faces. So be a generalist, and how you can show that you can work end to end. That is also the whole, both of the products, the BIM side or the computation side. Novator gives the holistic experience of this as well. We have certain levels of people who come and teach you. There are lead mentors. These lead mentors are industry specialists from around the world. They can be from anywhere, who are specializing in certain modules, certain topics. And then there are industry guides who are like your buddies, who will help you throughout the course. So every, say, industry guide has, say, 15 to 20 students per cohort with them, and they help them from day 1 to day X, day 100, whatever, to finish up the whole course. Not just to the course, actually, to finish up the whole experience of it. If they have any problems, they can reach out to them. There is a query bot, so your queries are getting solved. Because I think that is one more thing. One should ask questions, a lot of questions, and it's okay. If somebody feels you're dumb, it's fine. I think that's totally fine. You should just keep asking questions, because when you just keep asking questions, then you reach to a second stage where you know what questions to ask. And then you reach to a point where it's just asking smart questions. So, but just be curious around things, and that is what is more important. So, those are the realms that Novator is working right now. But also, we have recently started with another part of it where there are specialized courses. Now, when I say specialized courses, these courses are the future trends. Now, we don't want to plug it to the main course because it will extend the course. When you finish the course, we are giving you options to explore certain softwares that fits with you, that makes you feel this is where I want to. Like, we'll be releasing Forma next 2 weeks or so. Now, Forma is it's a software Autodesk released, and what does it do? What's happening? So we give a little bit of masterclasses before what it can do, and then a 4 to 5 week long of specialized courses. So that is also happening. So yeah.
And it's a whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
I want to wrap up the interview with a rapid fire round. Have like
Okay.
10 less than 10 seconds to answer it, and you can't exceed more than 5 words to answer the question.
Okay.
Okay. Who's your favorite architect?
Big. Yeah.
Favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant? Oh my god, that's tough. It's Louis Bar in Melbourne. Yeah.
I see. A city in your travel bucket list?
In my travel bucket list right now, okay, Japan. A city would be obviously Osaka. Right?
Your favorite architecture building?
I think I was very, very intrigued by Frank Gehry buildings. You see obviously in the pictures, but when it's the experience. So Frank Gehry building, it's just an experience for me. And that would be, I think, maybe Guggenheim. Every building, actually. I can't name one. That would be a lie. But yeah, Frank Gehry buildings.
Any book which made a big impact in your life?
Bhagavad Gita.
Best piece of advice you have received till date?
Be curious. Be detached and be curious.
3 words your friend would describe you as?
Oh my god, that's okay. I don't know, explorer. I just keep switching. So I explore a lot. And a foodie. I love food. I think everybody knows that.
What is one thing most people don't know about you but would be surprised to know?
Surprised to know. I have switched places every year for the last 16 years.
Interesting fact. All right. I think this was a great pod. Anything which we didn't cover in this interview and you would like to end on that closing note?
I think I think we covered it all, honestly, from the work, the journey, and everything. I just want to close this by saying that when I say be curious, I am very, very serious about it. There are two sides of architecture or engineering anywhere in the AEC industry, I think. One is the art, and the art comes with, it's very individualistic. I want to create this, I want to do this. I think this looks very beautiful, and the perception is different for everyone. The other, where actually the architecture, engineering, construction, everything comes in, it's not personal. It is a teamwork. It is for the betterment of the society, and it's betterment for the people who are gonna be living or experiencing that particular chunk of, build environment that we are creating. So don't get too personal about it. Be a very, very straightforward thinker. Start learning from a very beginning. Start from modeling something. When you start modeling, get into the details of it. Just when you're learning something, think of how things will be made. I myself did certain, like, you opened my profile and I was like, I actually looked at it after so long. So it was a step back for me. But there are so many pieces in my profile also where I just experimented. It was not meant to build, it was just to experiment what a designer can imagine. And that is fair. I think that was one place where my mind actually worked. Your frontal cortex, I think it worked too much. But then don't think that if you're working in an office that's giving you boring work, that's architecture is boring. You create another system. That's where your mindset as a designer would come. So being a designer does not just means creating a beautiful building, but it's creating the systems. Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great note. Thanks a lot, Parija, for your time to do this.
Thank you, Mayur, for inviting me. I think it was fun to reflect back at my journey as well.
So
Thank you.